Hello everybody, this is the Crew Dude. Have you ever had that one game that you really wanted to like, but it was just so bad it was hard to come to terms with? Well, for me it's Hydrophobia, an XBLA game developed by Dark Energy Digital and published by Microsoft. To emphasize how much of a disappointment this game was, the original price was $20, but now it has been significantly reduced to just $2. Let's see, I could buy a new outfit for my avatar, or I could buy this game. I feel like tormenting myself today. Let's dive right into Hydrophobia. The game is set on board a large city-like ship called the Queen of the World, where we see our main character, Kate Wilson, having a nightmare about her sister who had drowned prior to the game's events. They put a jump scare at the very beginning of the game? So Kate wakes up to see news coverage of the Queen of the World during its 10-year celebration known as the Party of the Century. Geez, talk about a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So after a small power outage, Kate heads off to fix it while being contacted by her behind-the-scenes intelligent fat guy named Scoot. From what I know, he was voiced by an Australian actor, but it sounds more like he's trying and failing to sound Scottish, to a point where I had to put subtitles on because I couldn't understand him half the time.
I'm just by the, security post in D-Sal.
D-Sal? What are you doing down there?
I'm working so that you can have the night off.
As Kate enters the elevator, the ship gets attacked and several bombs go off, flooding part of the deck. Since Kate's little sister drowned as shown in the intro, Kate has developed a fear of water, which would explain why she jumps into it without hesitation. Would a reread go amiss? Wait a minute, what was that sound? Oh dear, water! Honestly, the only time when Kate's sister comes into play outside of the opening cutscenes is when Kate starts to drown during gameplay where you can hear children's voices. It's such a discarded plot point that I can guarantee you'll stop caring about it just as quickly as the game does. When a game can't follow the concept of its own title, then we really have a problem. Kate discovers that the security officer has been murdered and needs to hack the systems manually. We are then acquainted with the Mavi, which is sort of like an infrared device that can scan systems and view key codes on walls, so it's essentially like a beefed-up blacklight. You hack consoles with this minigame where you have to move the thumbsticks in a way to match the wavelength. It gets harder later on, but I wish there was a little bit more variety to keep it interesting. There are also a lot of climbing segments, but they feel like a poor man's version of Remember Me, or more to the point, a poor man's version of Uncharted, since this was that infamous dark age when every game wanted to copy Uncharted's gameplay style. Kate soon meets Chief Bellingham, who's locked inside of a burning room, and this forces you how to learn to use the Mavi. Several times in the game, you have to use the Mavi to find a cipher key in order to unlock doors, and once you save Bellingham, he just ditches you. I'd also like to point out that there's a pointless achievement you get if you save him within a set time limit, but it's okay since he saves himself anyway, so there's really no point. As it turns out, the group of terrorists that attacked the ship called themselves the Malthusians, obviously in reference to Thomas Malthus and his theory of population growth. With several armed soldiers, only one goal is set for these terrorists: murder as many innocent people as possible. They also really hate Nirvana, apparently. At the beginning of Act 2, Kate finds a sonic gun, and this is when the game turns into an absolute joke. Whenever Kate shoots an enemy, they fall to the ground and slide all around like a bar of soap at a water park until they get back up, so you have to keep shooting them to make sure they actually die. However, it is funny to stand on top of them until they eventually drown. They also only shout one line of dialogue. I mean, for God's sake, how many times do I have to listen to them shout, "Die, bitch!" And when they aren't shouting, they usually fall off a high ledge accompanied by a Wilhelm scream. Okay, so you can get different ammo types later on, but for most of the time, you're stuck with just the sonic rounds. There are also no melee attacks, and cover-based shooting isn't the easiest to control. In addition to stupid AI, the guards are pretty easy to kill, mostly because they love talking more than executing people.
The end of righteousness is everlasting life, but the wages of sin are death. Those whose minds are not suited to a purer state of existence should perish and be condemned to mix again with their original clay. With how much truth great cities have been called the graves of mankind.
Do you have any idea what he just said? Speak the normal language, okay?
Die, bitch!
So you have to rescue the poor guy by hacking the camera feed to unlock the door.
Oh, you did it, girl! You saved him!
Good luck, wee man!
Oh no, that's just rude. I will give them this though. The water effects were actually really impressive for the time, and they still look cool today. The particle effects on the other hand are pretty dated, but not the worst I've ever seen. Finally, there's a 3D minimap that you can use, and I actually think it's pretty cool, but sadly, I never used it because waypoints guide you around constantly. Once a main villain is revealed without much foreshadowing, Scoot is kidnapped and Kate runs off to meet with the security officer again.
You made it. Not bad for an engineer. Here. I think you dropped this.
Scoot! We've got to save Scoot!
And I'm not kidding, the game just ends right there. Actually, it just stops, like the writer just said, to hell with it, I'm gone.
Check's in the mail, asshole.
So with a weak story, lazy voice acting, generic pitiful gameplay, it would be best forgotten. I could just end the review right here, but there actually is another version of the game called Hydrophobia Prophecy for PS3 and Steam. It's not a sequel or a reboot, it's the exact same game, but a lot of changes were made based off the harsh criticisms. So, is this game better than the original? Well, to quote Scoot, I have 2 balls and neither a crystal. Wow, that sounded stupider in real life. The title screen is different, but I honestly prefer the original since it was easier to read up close. Kate wakes up in her apartment just like last time, but now it looks like she's had quite a few renovations done since her home is much bigger than before. The character Scoot has been recast as American, and he looks like he's been hitting the gym because he's no longer a fat nerd hoping for the day to grow a neck beard.
I'm working so that you can have the night off.
The game plays out the same for the most part. It's still not great by any means, but at least I can tell that some actual effort went into making it. A ton of new levels were added into the game and they look really good, such as this room full of electrical condensers. The combat has been improved, and enemies no longer slide across the floor, and they've expanded their vocabulary to more than just one piece of dialogue. There's also a new gameplay mechanic called hydrokinesis, where Kate gets exposed to some experiment and can control water at a point late in the game. The original had this too, but only in the challenge arena, but it was very hard to control, but now, it's not too bad. The story was changed to give some characters more depth, and the game is slightly longer as a whole. The ending was much better, and it now features a boss battle that was actually kind of hard. Also, I'm not a grammar cop or anything, but you know how some games feature a database with information on characters, objects, and events and stuff? Well, in both games, I'm willing to bet that it was handled by underpaid interns, because I often see paragraphs played with grammar errors and run-on sentences. It's not that big of a deal or anything, but someone should have at least proofread it. Finally, there were plans for a sequel at one point, but the weird thing is that 2 versions of it were planned. One as a follow-up to the original, and another as a follow-up to Prophecy. I hate non-canon endings as much as anyone, but I've never heard of that happening before. When Dark Energy Digital closed down, the franchise was handed over to THQ, but after trying to sell the IP and engine several times, it turned out that no one wanted to work on it, and so the franchise died off. And probably for good reason. But hey, for such a cheap price at the moment, I won't stop you from checking it out if you want to, but you might want to go with Hydrophobia Prophecy. Words to the wise. This is the Crew Dude signing off, wishing you all a very pleasant day.
Here I come to you in the very clothes that I killed you in, and now I know I'm alone. I walk to you, rain falls from you. Can you wash me? Can you drown me?
You did it, Kate! You saved him! Hey, good luck, pal!
It's not the same.